What's going on, everybody? It is Adam back at you. Hashtag homeless. It's day 88. And I got nothing to talk about today. Nothing prepared, nothing thought up, nothing written down. So probably make this a little bit of a shorter video. But I don't know, I could talk about what happened over the last couple of days. Definitely not in a bad mood about the shelter today. I left before breakfast mainly because I want to keep that mood from going bad. Maybe if I stayed for breakfast, I'd have half an hour worth of stuff to talk about. But I talk about the bad things and the good at the shelter, and the food is pretty good. Every now and then it's not. It depends. I mean, it depends on the day. It depends on who cooks it. There's a variety of people who get involved with that. The inmates don't really, I don't think they're allowed to get involved with that. I don't know, but there's a number of people who are at the shelter who can cook, who are really good cooks. I'm a good cook. But they, over the last week, the days that I've gone to the shelter for dinner, the dinner's been really good. I don't know if I made it. I don't know if I went to dinner every single day this week, but I'm trying not to spend money. So more often than not, I do come back before 6 o'clock so that I can eat dinner there instead of having to. But with the EBT card, I can get. There's two things in town you can use an EBT card for to eat a meal. You can get a sub down at the one store. It's called Farm Fresh Foods, and there's another little convenience store right in the middle of Jamestown that you can use to get a pizza. You can get a whole pizza. You have to get a whole pizza, but their pizzas are, it's bigger than a personal pizza, but probably two hungry guys would devour this thing and still want more. So I have to be really, really hungry because you pretty much got to eat the whole thing. And so I'll save that for when the hell's going on here. So there's this lady, she came by me on a bicycle about going super, super slow. About 10 minutes ago, I was just about to start doing the video, and she looks at me, she's like, "Oh, you're recording a video?" And so she parks her bike right behind me and just sits there for 5 to 10 minutes, like waiting for me to, because I hadn't really started recording yet. So even though I'm talking to thousands of you through the screen here, I don't like having a crowd of people around me when I'm doing it. It's just, it's not because I care. It's because it throws off my train of thought, and I can't. If I was speaking to a group of people who are in front of me, that's a different thing. But if you're trying to talk to your video camera and there's like 10 people standing around you, all staring at you and behind you and everything else, then I don't know. It's just me. I get irritated about it. And, whatever. It's a public park. People are allowed to walk around and do their thing. But I'm like, it's 7 o'clock. It's just after 7 o'clock in the morning here. And I've already had encounters with like 4 or 5 people. And that's fine. Someone had a cool dog, came up. It's that typical, the dog comes running at you barking because they had it running off of their leash. And then, the dog's friendly. Dog's super friendly. So, but when you're petting the dog, the owner comes up, I'm so sorry. Oh, he's the friendliest dog. He'll never hurt anybody, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, you're good. You're good. It's nice to, pet a dog, friendly dog anyway. Different story if you got a nasty pit bull that's gonna, maul somebody and you got it running around off its leash. And I'm not saying all pit bulls are bad. I know plenty of people who have pit bulls that are super friendly dogs. So, I don't know. The shelter, the food is decent. It's not, you know, there's bad things about it. I can't stand being there. And so it is what it is. I'm hoping, I'm really at the limit of this whole being stuck in limbo, not knowing what city I'm going to live in. Like the probation department, it's not all their fault. It really isn't, because I was supposed to come home and have a home. And that was not the case from the moment I sat down in the car at the bus stop when I got out of prison. And that had nothing, it's not the probation department's fault. And I'm not going to blame them for that. But it was May 17th when I became homeless. And now it's August 12th. We're going on 3 months, and they've just got me wallowing here and floundering in a place where I don't even know if I can stay. So I can't really look for an apartment. There's no apartments to be found. I can't get one without a job. So like, this whole thing is just, it's ridiculous. And they do this to a lot of people. When you get out of prison, they just throw you out in the street with nothing and say, good fucking luck, you'll be back. That's what they do. I mean, our society is so broken. I don't even know where to begin. All you gotta do is look in the comment section for yesterday's video. You'll see a lot of positive comments, but you'll see some people that are just complete assholes, complete pieces of trash, leaving comments I don't know why they come and watch these videos all the time, but believe me, I'll respond to you trash assholes. But you know, I had a late start yesterday. And let's see, I went to church. Church was good. There's a lot of cool people at this church. I'm glad I found it. The message yesterday was really good. It kind of went along with what I'm going through. The message was a lot about welcoming people who may not be at the same point in their journey as you. And it's kind of, it was the pastor's wife, and the pastor, I don't know where he wasn't there. And so it was his wife, and she gave the sermon, and she was talking about, she had a neighbor that, I don't think her neighbor believed in God, but it started out with just waving at the neighbor when she would run by in the morning on her jogging runs. Here comes the guy with his dog again. I don't know what, he's coming right over to me. So I don't know if I'm gonna have to stop this video. It's kind of, this is just getting weird. So I don't know, I'll be back. So anyway, I'm back. I hate having to splice these videos together. It adds another, whenever I have to splice more than one video together into a video to upload, it's an extra step in my day. But it boils down to just pushing a few buttons, and there's an app that does it. It takes 10 minutes of my time, but I have to babysit the process and constantly check to see if the progress bar is moving along and all that kind of stuff, and it drains the battery, and I don't know, it is what it is. This guy with his dog comes, he sees me here every day, and now that I've got this little gorilla grip tripod wrapped around this bench that I'm sitting on, because I went and got this phone clamp for it, now people see me sitting here with this thing, they're like, oh, he's doing YouTube. And so I don't know, today is just a weird, I can't even get comfortable here today. I'm trying not to put the sun to my back, because yesterday's video, it was shining right through the back of my head as it moved through the trees. And so, but yeah, the pastor's wife yesterday, she told us a story about how she had a neighbor. They had moved into a new house, and the neighbor would go on like 10-mile walks every day or something like that, and she would wave off of the porch to the neighbor. And I don't remember how she started going on the walks with the neighbor, but eventually she started going on walks with the neighbor, and the neighbor wasn't a believer in Jesus and was going through some pretty bad things in life. And she also mentioned how her neighbor, swore like a pirate, like me. She talked like me, dropping an F-bomb every 2 or 3 sentences, and that kind of thing. And what really spoke to me was she didn't judge the neighbor for that, because I know a lot of Christians, and I've gone to church with a lot of Christians, and if you have that kind of if you speak that way, they won't want anything to do with you. And if you do anything, there's a lot of churches. I went to a big church in Pittsburgh that had a congregation of around 4,000 people. Over the time, it started out small, but over the years it grew and grew, and it kept getting bigger. So you can't put 4,000 people in the same place without having a wide variety of the kinds of people that you're surrounded by. You're going to have people from all, and this church was truly a church of all walks of life that you could possibly imagine. The richest of the rich down to the poorest of the poor, black, white, yellow, green, purple, whatever color people. They were all represented, and all walks of life, all different places in their walk with Jesus, all that stuff. And so, but there were factions of people there. I went there for like 10 years, so there are different factions and different groups of people, cliques, whatever you want to call it. And there were definitely people there who would not want to associate with you if you were not the so-called perfect, sinless Christian. And, I get, that burns me when people walk around talking about being, without sin and blah, 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 because the Bible says we're all sinners. And everybody, these people, there was a guy I was in federal prison with, okay? And I was going to Bible studies, and so in the 4 months that I was at Danbury, FCI Danbury, where Steve Bannon is right now, it's a more laid back low security prison. The minimums are more laid back than the lows. There was a lot of different Bible studies, but even there were so many people in these Bible studies and go into the church services and stuff like that, that there were little factions within the prison of different groups of Christians that a lot of them didn't more or less like each other. And I didn't care about any of that. I never do care about any of that cliquey stuff. I went to all the different Bible studies. For the most part, there was 1 or 2 that I stopped going to. But it really didn't have to do with the clickiness. It had to do with other things. And there was a guy at one of these Bible studies, and I forget what they were basically talking about. There's this whole argument that a lot of Christians have, they go back and forth with, where if you believe in Jesus but you continue to sin, then you're going to hell. But the Bible says that you're forgiven of all your sins and that you will continue to sin. And so that you have to repent and, turn away from it. And so this fight would break out. I always called it the Friday night Bible fight, because this argument would break out over and over and over again. And I was only there for 4 months. And this happened almost regularly. Every Friday night at this Bible study, that's what it turned into, a fight about whether you're going to hell or not. And half of the room arguing one side of it, the other half of the room arguing the other, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, I gotta get the hell out of here. And but this one guy, he looked at everybody and he says, well, I can honestly say that I have not committed a sin for 9 years. And I'm like, for 9 years. I'm like, I think you just committed the sin of pride right there. But, I'm not one to judge. I'm not the one who's going to judge this. But 9 years and you never committed a sin. 9 years you never saw a woman walking around in a thong on the TV room inside the prison and thought, man, I'd like to hit that ass. Like the smallest, the smallest little sin. You're saying that I've gone 9 years without committing a sin? Get out of here, dude. Get out of here. And so that became a topic of discussion and gossip and everything else. But there's a lot of Christians like that who just think that they're better than everybody else. And then they don't want to associate with those who are underneath them or beneath them. And that's exactly what Jesus came to speak out against, because that's what the Jews were doing. That's what the Pharisees and the religious leaders at the time, that's how they were acting. And that's how large congregations of people were acting. That's why they would cast lepers out into the street and not, get out of here, leper. Get out of here, you unclean, diseased freak. And, like anybody who was a sinner, they would stone women to death for committing adultery and things like that. But they were all sinners themselves. And so Jesus came to speak out against that and against that behavior. And so, but even to this day, you'll see Christians in church and they treat people like that in some cases. And so that's one of the things that'll be one of the first things I notice if I go to a new church. How do they treat people who don't necessarily toe the line or act the way they act, or maybe they have something in their closet in their past or whatever, they've committed some, I went to prison. So how are they going to treat me when they find out what happened in my life and how I ended up homeless and all this and what happened? How are they going to treat me when they find out I'm just a homeless piece of trash who wandered in through the door? You know what I mean? And so this place here, I don't think I've been to a bad church since I've been out of prison, to be honest. There were all of the churches I've been to are very much, I wouldn't say a clique is not the right word, but it's a group of people that know each other very well and all live in the same neighborhood and all, grew up together and that kind of thing. And so, I didn't have enough time to really bond with the people at the first two churches I was going to, because I was thrown out into the street to become homeless, and now I'm 6 miles away from that neighborhood, and I don't want to go back there, and I don't want to go to those churches because I don't want to go there physically and be around that area. And so I'm sticking around, down here in Jamestown, this area. And so when I walked into this church one day, and I guess I've been going there for about a month now. I'm in a time warp right now, and it's hard to keep it all straight in my head without looking at things I've written down in my notes or my calendars. But the people at this place have been really open and accepting, and I've been slow. It's a slow burn for me to talk to people and let them know what's going on and what happened and how I ended up, because the questions always pop up. How did you end up in Jamestown? How did you find your way to this church? Oh, did you grow up in Jamestown? And oh, what do you do for a living? And all these kind of questions pop up, and I don't want to lie, but I don't want to just advertise and put on a big billboard out across my chest and listing all the bullet points of everything that happened. And so I find that I have opened up to a few people at the church, and they've all been very welcoming and kind and, all of that stuff. And it circles back around to what the pastor's wife was saying, that she didn't judge this neighbor of hers who didn't believe in Jesus and, swears like a pirate and maybe there's things in her lifestyle that the pastor's wife disagreed with, but she would go on these walks every day or regularly with the neighbor, and the neighbor started to open up to her about lots of things, and also told her, she's like, I appreciate that you pray for me and that you know, all that kind of stuff. And so the neighbor was, or not the neighbor, the pastor's wife, she was saying to us that she felt like she needed to do more, or that she wasn't evangelizing enough to try and, you know, talk to the neighbor about why she believes and what she believes and all that kind of stuff. But the moral of the story was she was evangelizing to her neighbor, and I'm not talking like a TV evangelist or trying to, you know, trying to force your beliefs on somebody. That's never going to work. That's never going to nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. So, I mean, I'm going to get some comments today about me right now. I'm forcing my beliefs on all of you. And the only thing I have to say to that is that you're in a web browser or a mobile app that you can, number one, you can shut it off. Number two, you can scroll away from this video and go watch something else. I'm not forcing anything on you. I'm just telling a story. So, but I guarantee you, you're going to look in the comments today and you're going to see this guy's trying to force his religious BS on us. All right, you know, keep talking. But that's the cool thing about it, is that the pastor's wife realized that she was helping and reaching this person next door. I guess the previous people that lived in the house where the pastor and his wife lived were really mean, and the neighbor didn't get along with them. And so the neighbor was just happy to have good neighbors all of a sudden. And it changed her life, and it made her, you know, it made her life a lot better. Having a bad neighbor can really make your life miserable if you have the wrong bad neighbor. I can tell you that from experience. And, so that's kind of what she was getting at. Just accept people for who they are. Not, you know, you don't want to be with this church that's cliquey and only accepts people if they, you know, if they walk in the door and they agree with everything that you believe. Because I guarantee you, this is a small congregation of 20 to, you know, 30 people at the most are inside the sanctuary during service. And I guarantee you there's disagreements amongst the crowd, but they're all welcoming and accepting of people. And, you know, it seems like to me that whoever walks in that door, they're going to be welcoming and accepting. And so I had a talk with somebody yesterday who has been trying, he definitely knows that something's up, because he asks me questions and I give him vague answers, because I just don't want to, you know, like I said, I don't want to wear all my troubles on a billboard. And so I told him the story, like the shortest version I could tell in 5 minutes. And he was, like, I could see his shock on his face. It was like pretty intense. And I was like, and I immediately, as soon as I do that, I'm like, yeah, this guy's not going to want to hang out anymore. And, but it was the opposite. After church, I was walking out the door because I had to go meet somebody, and he chased me down to tell me, he's like, hey man, I'm glad that you shared that stuff with me. Man, that really sucks. And, you know, we had a talk, and he was like, you know, he's like, man, if you ever just need help, or, you know, he brought a bicycle. He brought a bicycle with him that he wanted to lend me so that I'd have a way to get around town. And this was without him knowing all the stuff that, you know, he just knew that something's up with me, but he didn't know all the details. And so he brought a bicycle. And I said to him, I said, I really appreciate it. Right now, I couldn't just hop on the bike and leave right now because I got to meet somebody. Number two, I don't really have a good place to store the bike where I would feel that it would be safe. And I told him, I said, if I were to get a job here in Jamestown, because I've been looking, if I found a job here in Jamestown, I would have a bike that I own brought to me. I'd probably be able to do that. And so, and I said, this laptop bag that I carry around, I don't want to carry it on a bicycle. I don't have a proper backpack. I don't want to risk falling off a bike carrying a MacBook. I don't want to risk falling off a bicycle and having my MacBook get destroyed. So there's 20 different reasons why I didn't want to, but I was like, please please be aware that I appreciate that a lot. Like, somebody's willing to let me borrow a bicycle. It was really like an awesome gesture. And he came up to make sure that, like, even though I just told him what all went down in my situation, that he's like, the bicycle's in the back of my car if you want to take it now. So later on in the day, I got a text from somebody else at church. She found somebody who was on Facebook who was looking for someone to help with certain marketing and search engine optimization stuff. And she was like, I think this is something in your wheelhouse. Would you be maybe you want to reach out to this guy? When I read the description of what the guy's looking for, it's not, maybe I'll reach out to him just to say I did. And because maybe I could help him. So maybe I will do that today. But that was just another nice gesture that somebody did at church. And this other person, and the person who sent me this text, knows my situation, knows what happened, at least to an extent. Because I have been, I do kind of try not to, what I really was hoping, because the church itself is actually pretty big. And I thought the first day I went to this church that there would be a lot of people there. And that would make me more comfortable because I could just slip in, go to church, hear the sermon, listen to the music, whatever, and slip out the door and just get my church on, but not that was what I wanted. I'm not lying. I wanted to be anonymous. I just wanted to duck in, get my church, duck out, and go do my thing. And it was totally the opposite of that. And I was like, oh no, oh man. That was like how I was the first day I went there. But everybody there has been really welcoming and friendly to the point. But I still try to avoid having conversations with everybody, because then because the conversation, you know how Americans are when they have conversations, they want to know, what do you do? What brought you here? All these different things. And I can't answer those questions without sounding like I'm trying to hide something, because I'm trying to hide something. So, and I'm not going to be like, go to YouTube and find out or go type my name into Google and you'll figure it out. Like, I'm just trying not to. Part of it also has to do with not knowing where I'm supposed to live and all of this stuff. So let's see. So after church yesterday, you noticed that the video, a lot of the super fans, the ones that really watch, you noticed that the video was late. I even got a couple comments, like I said I was gonna. In yesterday's video, I said I was gonna get comments about the video coming out late, and I did. And so that was all right. I mean, that's cool. It's cool to know that, the videos are in demand. Thank you for that. So after church, I went and met with a prospective client, somebody who watches these videos, and we had a really good time, really good lunch. I learned a lot, and all of the homework that I did, the research that I did prior to going to meet this guy, and then the stuff that we talked about, and the stuff that I walked away knowing more and having a better I had a lot of how do I put this? I just came up with the decision to start my own business, like a week ago or something. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around how to do certain things, or what do I want to offer? How do I want to do this? How do I want to approach this, that, and the other thing? And just having that meeting this weekend forced me to do certain things in my mind and kind of sort out some thoughts on how to do this. And so that was a good thing yesterday. And if that turns into a client with a pretty cool project, I think this will be a really good project. I think it'll definitely help this person's business grow. And it's exactly what I do for a living. It'll take me back in time to when I was doing more marketing work and less software work. And I'm really starting to wonder, because this is another believer, another guy who believes in God, and we talked about that, and so there was like a nice little bond there, and this guy was really cool. Regardless of whether I do this project or not, I would definitely hang out with this guy again. And I'm not going to dox anybody or blast it out there. If I do the website, I'll promote it on the channel, just because there's 1,000 people watching, and I know some of you live in this region. So, I'm doing the thing that I liked the realization I had when I was sitting there meeting with this guy is that this is the kind of work I did for 6 years when I worked for myself. And then I went and started working at big software companies. And it's that whole, the liberal woke pronoun crowd whenever you go to these software companies. And I remembered for 6 years when I worked for myself, I only stopped doing it because of the stock market crash put all my clients out of business. But for 6 years, I met so many interesting people and had so many interesting conversations with people, learned about so many different people's businesses, and I learned more in those 6 years working for myself, learned like useful information for me. I grew more and learned more in those 6 years than any other 6-year period of my life. Just by the variety of people that I got to know. And, and then along with it comes the freedom of running your own business and all of those kinds of things. But people treat you differently when you own your own business and somebody comes to you to hire you to do a job. They treat you with a lot more respect and a lot more respect. That's the right word for it. One thing I noticed when I stopped working for myself and I started working for companies, the different companies I've worked for since that business went under were there's a variety. Some of them treat you like the homeless shelter treats you, like you're a 2-year-old kid, just shut up and do what you're told. I've worked in some really bad environments. And then I've worked in environments where you did have a lot of respect and people treated you like an equal, or they treated you like they hired you to do a job that they couldn't do themselves. So they treat you with that level of respect that, that you're valuable to them. And so when you work for a company, but there's also things that come with working for a company that, I don't know, they don't always treat you, you're always kind of beneath them, if you put it that way. But the thing that I noticed the most when I did the 6 years of freelancing is that the companies, they treat you with a lot, or people, or the companies, or the people at the companies, however you want to word it, they treat you with a lot more respect, and they treat you as an equal when you're sitting at the table with them and you're talking about their project. And there's still, there's a big difference between an employer-employee relationship or a business-to-business relationship. And so just sitting down and talking to this guy yesterday reminded me of that. it reminded me of how I spent 6 years living that life, and and then I went to work for a company that was not a good place to work for when I transitioned back into being an employee. And that was a big contrast, and that was something that I always missed, was the level of mutual respect that you would have between the client and customer versus an employee and an employer. And so that just kind of made me wonder, is this what God wants me to do? Does God want me to go back to doing my own thing and helping people that the guy's not struggling? It's not a struggling business. They just want to get more business, and they definitely I could help them there. And that's the cool thing, that, like, to me, if I can, when I work on software projects for these big companies, it kind of reminds me of being a designer, of doing package design for a living. Like, I was doing Kodak film packaging way back in the day. Film. Way back in the day when Kodak sold film. I was doing packaging for them. I was doing beer packaging. I was spending my entire life creating art that goes straight to the garbage as soon as someone brings it home. And that's what it feels like working in the software industry a lot. It just feels like you're pouring your heart and soul into something that's just going to be thrown in the trash in a couple months. And so when you can help a business grow their business, and then in turn, that business, they're real happy about the work that you did, and all of a sudden they start telling their other business owner friends about the work that you did, and now all of a sudden you're getting more requests and more calls to work with this person, that person, the other person, etc. And when you can actually at the end of the day say, look, I helped this person go from getting, hypothetically, I helped this person increase the amount of customers they get from, well, let's just say I did help a company once. They were getting 25 leads per month from their website. And this is a very long story, but they were spending an obscene amount of money, hundreds of dollars per lead, based on what they were paying in advertising and the amount of people that were clicking to come to their website and paying for those clicks, and the number of people who actually contacted them through the website and turned into a lead, let alone turned into a paying customer. And so I did some work for this company, and it turned around to where they were getting 25 leads a day instead of 25 leads a month. And the leads that were coming in were qualified leads. The customer had filled out all the information about the product, about what they were looking for. So it was the salesperson could already put together a quote before even calling the customer. The salesperson no longer has to ask the customer all these qualifying questions when they call that customer. They can jump right into the sales pitch. And so that's the kind of stuff that I like to do. And that's the kind of stuff that, I'm a graphic designer. I like to create things that look nice. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't do the job, if it doesn't make... if somebody's going to invest into me to spend time helping them, I want to make sure that it's profitable for them. You know what I mean? So that's that. Just sitting down talking to somebody yesterday, it just brought all that back, because I did that for 6 years. And in those 6 years, I think out of all the different customers and all the different clients I worked with, I can only remember 1 or 2 situations in 6 years where things just didn't work out, let's say. And one of those situations, I did a few projects for that client, and they were successful and they were good, and the client kept coming to me for more. And in that situation, the client became too demanding. And it's a long story, but we politely decided to stop working together. And that was okay. There was no hard feelings about it. it worked out for a number of months, and then I had to move on, and I had other things to work on, and so I had to make a decision that it was more my decision in that situation. And then there was another time where I started working for a client, and I had a bad feeling that I wasn't going to get paid. And so I did a little bit of work, and then I did basically enough work that I could invoice, and then things got really weird, and I had to say goodbye to that one too. And then there were, as a designer, as a web producer, as somebody who does this kind of work, every now and then there might be, conflict isn't even the right word, but sometimes things take longer than you want them to take. Sometimes there's a hard deadline that you have to meet no matter what. I used to work on a project that would launch on the morning after Thanksgiving, and it had to be live and functional and finished the morning of the day after Thanksgiving, because it was going to be put all over the TV news. CNN, NBC, CNBC, all the business news morning shows. 5 a.m. had to be live. It was going to be getting hit tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of visits all at once, because it was being put all over the news. And they were doing news interviews and everything else, and this was year after year. So things would get a little heated and tense leading up to that deadline. And we might have to cut a corner here and there because it's better to go live than to not launch the site. And we could not launch it the day before. It was one of those things that had to be kept behind the curtain until that morning. So it was this big production, but people would get all upset, and every now and then I would get some nasty emails for sure, leading up to that day, and I'd expect it. I expected it. Happened every year, and that's the key. It happened every year. They kept coming back to me every year to do this, because once it was launched, once it went live, once they got the results that they were anticipating getting, and and everybody's patting each other on the back, now we're all friends again. and everybody forgets about any of the stressful moments that went into doing that work. And so, these are just things that I remember that were like triggered into my mind yesterday, just because I made the decision to start offering these services again in the way that I used to do it in the past, to an extent. I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time, and the fact that somebody heard me say that on this YouTube channel and decided to reach out because of that, and it just it's that frictionless. If you're going down the path that God wants you to walk, it's like He makes it easy for you. He makes it really easy for you. And if you're going the wrong direction, it's like God will build a brick wall that's 100 feet high, and you'll sit there banging your head against the wall all day, and the only thing that you'll get at the end of the day is a headache. You won't be able to break through the wall, and every step is a struggle, and every time you try to move forward, you're blocked at every turn. And so it's like this, even though I don't feel like God is like screaming at me and speaking to me really loud right now, there are certain aspects of this journey that some things I do are just smooth and problem-free, and it just boom, 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 boom. It just falls into place, and it's smooth, and it's easy, and every time I take a step forward, it seems like the universe takes 3 steps to meet me, towards me. But then there's other directions I keep trying to go, and it's like there's a brick wall in my path, and I can't get through it, and I can't get around it, and I can't climb over it. And so this YouTube channel, the photography stuff, the fact that I decided that I should just start my own business, all of these kinds of things are going really smooth. Just all I have to do is say the word, and then all of a sudden, here God's like, here's a client. Just popped out of nowhere. You were supposed to do that YouTube video. You're supposed to be talking to these people about me and these things, because, I'm using you right now. You're supposed to be doing this stuff, and everything in that direction just seems to be, I don't think easy is the right word, because nothing I'm going through right now is easy. Nothing. But things are, it's like things, I take 2 steps in the direction that I just told you, and all of a sudden things start happening without me having to do much of anything. Things come to me. The other direction, I'm trying to get a job at one of these software companies and do what I was doing before. I've applied to I'm closing in on 300 companies I've applied to work for. I've gone on multiple interviews. I'm getting jerked around. I've got one company has me waiting now 10 weeks to find out an answer. I've stopped trying to contact them to see what's going on at this point. I think I might reach out one more time this week, and the only reason is because it'll placate the people at social services that want to know. And so until I get closure, I guess, but I'm only doing it to appease them. I'm not doing it. If it were up to me, I would have already just said, forget it. I don't need to keep pestering this HR person at this company anymore. And so, and it just seems like it's roadblock after roadblock after roadblock in that direction. But then I decide, okay, what if I go this other direction and things are just like, how about they just fall into place? And so I'm still going to have to deal with probation and all of that if I start my own company, and because I'm required to have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job. But if nobody wants to hire me, if I can't even get a job at Burger King, what am I supposed to do? Just sit down and die? Put out my arms and say, put the handcuffs on and take me back to prison? No. So that's where I'm at. And I think that, I don't know, I've got so much time before the library opens. I might actually go to Crazy Tim Hortons this morning because I got an early start. The library doesn't open for another 45 minutes, and I'm going to wrap this video up. The thing about church yesterday and the thing about everything was it did make me feel like God has my back. And I know at the end of the day, I was so tired. I was asleep. I put up the videos yesterday. I got all that stuff done, checked off my checklist, laid down to watch a video, and I fell asleep within 10 minutes. I don't even remember anything about the video I started to watch. And so I'm definitely feeling fresher today. My pinky toes are healing. I'm not quite ready to go on a 10-mile walk yet, but it's getting there. And I don't know, I wasn't prepared with anything to talk to you guys about today, and so this was definitely a bit of a rambling, just whatever comes out kind of a day. And so I hope that, hey, I'll do the plugs, shop.litgood.com if you want to buy some photography. Still trying to figure out why YouTube won't sync properly with the other store at this place called Fourth Wall. I got an email back this morning from their tech support saying I should disconnect my YouTube store and resynchronize the whole thing again because they fixed some stuff, and I may have to disconnect and reconnect but it's only 20 photographs, so I might do that today. I'll give it a try. It may or may not. I don't know. It's one way or another. But I'm also, I want to put out a deal to you guys for subscribing to the email list, which is at free.litgood.com. And I've got some other homework to do, and I gotta keep looking for a job. I have to keep looking for a job as long as I'm in Jamestown anyway. I can't, so I got all these different things I got to do today. The quicker I get started, the better. So I think Tim Hortons is probably where it's going to start. And maybe when I get sick of that place, I got to go to the bathroom. I need to take a break, whatever. I'll go to the library. And so, I don't know. It's starting to drag. But I'm going to leave it there today. I filled in the time just going around and talking about a lot of random different things. So, anyway, hope y'all accomplish what you were trying to accomplish today. And We'll talk tomorrow. Peace out.